A woman's worth isn't determined by her number of sexual partners. And a lot of people aren't going to understand what I mean by that. Because some people are going to jump all the way on the other side and say that nothing that ever happens in her sexual experience can determine anything about her or her dynamic with you. That's not true. And then some other people will say, well, it definitely matters, because if she's had more than 3 or 4 bodies, more than 5 bodies, if she's been touched at all, her value decreases as she has more partners. That's not true either. That's bullshit. If you determine a woman's value by her number of partners, automatically you're coming off as a guy who has no sexual confidence. No sexual confidence, right? Because the only way that you can try to avoid the fear of sexual competition is by dealing with a woman who has no sexual experience. Now, perhaps the experience she has after you can be something that's an issue, right? But the experience she has before you should not matter. And I'm going to tell you why. All right? The value in a woman is based on 2 things: the respect she has for you and the desire she has for you. If she's had experiences in the past that you are unable to replicate or go beyond, to the extent that she has to think logically about her desire to be with you, then that depreciates a woman's value to you. If a woman has been overstimulated to the point where she can't respect you as a man, right? Like if she's dealt with a man who was so masculine or so dominant that dealing with you is something that makes her feel comfortable, whereas she used to feel excited, or whereas she used to feel in her feminine energy with a man, but she's with you for more logical reasons or for reasons that are more so associated with feeling comfortable versus feeling excited versus the intensity, then that makes her value depreciate with you. But the number of partners has nothing to do with that. A woman could have had that experience 1, 2 guys. To a certain extent, a woman could have had that experience with 0 men. But her fantasy and her desire for a guy was so strong that even if she didn't have sex with him, that is something in the back of her mind that you may never measure up to. And another woman could have been with 30 guys, never had an orgasm. Or the orgasms that she had were completely separate from her emotional attachment. Or all of her sexual relationships were ones where either there was emotion involved that was transactional for sex, or there was sex involved but no emotion involved, right? And the thing to understand about it is this: there's a difference between a relationship being involved and an emotion being involved. If that woman's getting fucked into her feelings and you can't do that, then y'all are not compatible, right? Now, part of the reason why back in the day people would deal with relationships on a basis of limiting access to a woman sexually before she was married was to avoid overstimulation. I mean, there's also different reasons like paternity fraud, but overstimulation is what leads to duplicity. Right? So if you're dealing with a woman with limited experience, it's one thing, but also understand that in this day and age, things work a little bit different. Because even if a woman hasn't had sex, there are a lot of women who will push certain ideologies and pervasive thought processes into her head, certain mindsets. And she will be exposed to porn. She will be exposed to social media. She will be exposed to romance novels. She will be exposed to Disney movies. She will be exposed to Hollywood. She will be exposed to sex stories in hotels from her friends, that even if she hasn't acted on it, she has a certain thought process in her mind about what a truly exciting sexual experience is. And if curiosity is greater than realized chemistry when it comes to you and a woman, then she's always going to be a liability. If novelty is greater than depth, right, as far as what takes her to the highest level of sexual experience and those emotional highs, then that woman will always be a liability. Always. You can wait till marriage to have sex with a woman, and she can still go fuck somebody else, right? And if you're being transactional with protection and provision and love, in order to put her in a position where she feels comfortable to have sex with you versus desiring you sexually, then what you have to understand is that that woman will always be a liability if she encounters a situation where her morals aren't strong enough or her boundaries aren't strong enough to avoid getting fucked by a man who she lustfully desires. That woman will always be a liability. That's part of the reason why I believe in starting with the biology first approach, right? Now, what you got to understand is that there are some women who could be in a relationship with you. They would be in a relationship with you. But because you start with sex, they may not want to do that because they have a gentleman gigolo complex. But you have to understand is that would you rather have love without sex or sex without love? Now, the goal is that if a woman is on your program, you know, she's beautiful to you, she gets on your program, you know, she fuck with you the long way, she campaigns for a position, that eventually you integrate those things. But the mixture of love and sex and security are things that most people don't get to experience in life. Most people don't get to experience sustainable sexual attraction that goes along with a secure relationship. Most people don't get to experience that in their lifetimes. Now, some people are able to experience that when they start with the relationship, but those are the rare people. Most of the time, when you spend an extended period of time around someone before you have sex with that individual, if the desire level isn't high enough, if you as a man aren't who's saying, okay, cool, she wants it, she desires it, she lets that be known, but you're making her wait for it. Unless that's what's going on, typically, you're going to be limited in how far you can take a woman sexually. You're going to be limited, especially if she doesn't have a lot of experiences. Then she may have certain things that she considers sexual boundaries that are really just the boundaries that she has for you specifically. But if she has an experience going beyond those boundaries with anyone else, then she will be so caught up in the idea of those limitations that she wouldn't want to go to that place with you. And there is no guarantee that she wouldn't be willing to go to that place with someone else who she doesn't know as well. And it may purposefully be because she doesn't know them as well, so she doesn't see that as something that could possibly mess up the relationship. Like, there are a lot of women whose mindset is they wouldn't want to have a threesome in an actual relationship, but they would do it with somebody who they don't know that well, right? Because not knowing them that well puts her in a position where she doesn't feel like it's as much of a risk. That's a gentleman gigolo complex. That's having a dual nature sexually. As a man, what your job is to be able to establish that sexual compatibility, to be able to establish that attraction, that chemistry, and then to set your program, set your standards, set your boundaries, set expectations. And as that woman is emotional with you, she's invested in you, then you show her that as you get closer to one another, the sexual compatibility will continue to grow. And you have to show a woman that there are benefits that come with being emotionally invested, right? Now, as that goes about, if you've already gotten behind her social mask before you two get too emotionally invested in one another, now you're in a position where if a relationship comes out of that, she's going to be much more inclined to be feminine and submissive with you, right? She's going to be more inclined to have a certain level of desire and respect for you that doesn't just choose one or the other. Going to be much more inclined to see you from a full holistic perspective versus putting you into a box, right? But there's just risk. Everything's a calculated risk. There's nothing in relationships that's 100% foolproof. Nothing in relationships is 100% foolproof. And you just have to understand and accept that as a man. But one thing you also need to understand and accept is that having a Madonna whore complex and then wanting to treat a woman as if she's not a being who has intrinsic sexual desire is something that's going to bite you in the ass at the end. That's those people with that why buy the cow if the milk is free type of mentality. I say only buy a cow if the milk is free, the sample's good, the cow likes to be milked, right? The cow gets along with you, the cow's cooperative, and then you say that, you know, this cow's good and healthy. It grows when it's with me, it's doing well. Next thing you say is this, okay, I want to take this to the next level, right? And she may say I want to be your cow now. So you make some more calves, you make some bulls. See, that's the mentality that you should have. It shouldn't be a matter of wanting to buy the cow so you can sample the milk. Because what if you don't like the milk? What if the cow don't like you? What if the cow don't like giving you milk? and it becomes a transactional situation, right? So where the cow might cut the milk off because you're not giving it what it feels like it wants, even if that's not something that's beneficial at the time. Understand, a woman's worth is determined by her number of sexual partners. A woman's worth to you as a man is going to be determined by her respect and desire for you. It's going to be determined by it's going to be determined by her ability to be feminine and submissive with you. Don't worry about too much shit outside of you and her. Your dynamic is where it starts. Don't start from your perception of the past, because she could be lying. She could be dishonest. And there's something inherently emotional and illogical about basing things and what you're willing to and not willing to do in a relationship based off of what somebody tells you that you can't confirm for yourself. A woman could easily be lying about her sexual past. A woman could easily be lying about a variety of things. But you have to have a program that stretches a woman in a way to where if she's feminine and submissive with you, she will enjoy it. She will love it. But if she's masculine and submissive with you, she will get burnt out and she will leave you the fuck alone. Right? I know sometimes women these days, they talk about women deserve love that they don't have to suffer for first. It's because you have to understand that with feminism, it's not just about equality. A lot of things that go along with feminism have a lot more to do with women trying to get a leg up in the game. What you have to understand is that women can't win the game. Women can't win the gender war, because in a woman's nature, if there's any aspect of femininity and submissiveness in her, any propensity towards that, then she doesn't respect the man she can control. She doesn't respect the man that she can manipulate. She doesn't desire a man who she can be transactional about sex with, because she's going to lose the ability to do that consistently. And if it is transactional, she's going to lose the ability to be consistently sexual with you. So you have to have a program that stretches a woman. You take your time. You get to know her. You make sure that your dynamic is working. You make sure that, she can be cooperative with you. And not just cooperative, but feminine and submissive. You make sure that she invests in you herself. She spends some of her own money. You see that her debit card works too, right? Shout out to KZAG20. And there's certain things that you just want to see to make sure that woman can actually get on your program. And I know that some men say, well, like I got my one video talking about there's no substitute for good D and guidance. Some men will say, well, I just want a woman who's cooperative with me, or not everybody can have that. If you can't have that with you, you probably don't need to be in a relationship. You probably don't need to be married, right? Take that money that you spend on women and go find you a good dating coach. There's plenty of them out there. Go find you somebody who can get your dirty talk game up. Maybe go to Alan Roger Curry. Go find somebody who could teach you some very good sexual skills. I can teach you some damn good sexual skills. Go find some people who could teach you some stuff. If you want to get some game, go to Real Game No Theory. You got guys up there. You got Coach EO. You got KZAG20. You got, Steve Dean Williams. You got a variety of people. You know what I mean? You got Mr. 1950, Mr. Lucario. There's some very good people out here who could teach you some game. If you're trying to learn about sexual integration, come to me. I'll teach you some shit about sexual integration. But you have to know what it is that you want. You have to know what it is that you want and know how to make yourself attractive for that outcome, and know how to accept the things that come with the role that you choose to play. If you choose to play that game of pay for play, right, then you can't expect genuine desire or genuine love for a woman, right? If you're worried about hypergamy, right, that means that you're using your resources, whether that's emotional, financial, social, you're using your resources to attract a woman. Your bait is setting yourself up to be in a situation where a woman's going to want to trade up because she has no genuine investment in you that supersedes her logical, pragmatic mindset, because you're trying to speak to her through pragmatism. If you're trying to engage with a woman through appealing to her pragmatism, you're trying to pander to a woman's desire to be provided for. You're trying to pander to a woman's desire to feel emotionally heard. If you're trying to pander to a woman's desire for social validation, and you confirm these different things and you're trying to pander to these things, then understand that that woman is not dealing with you on a basis of being naturally feminine and submissive. That woman is not dealing with you on a basis of having genuine desire and respect for you. She's dealing with you because of what you provide. And if she doesn't feel like you're providing what she's worth, If she feels like you're not providing as well as you used to, if you lose your job, something goes left, if you need to take a step back from working so hard so that you can pursue a goal, if you're in a position with this particular woman where you're working with her and she loses some weight and she gets in better shape, now she feels like she's better than you, right? If she gets her own money, now she feels like you can't tell her what to do because she has her own shit now, right? And that woman's constantly going to be in a position where she's trying to get more so she could be in a position to elevate herself above your leadership and above your guidance, right? These are just some things that are very important to understand. See, if you don't understand these things, then you're going to be setting yourself up to be in a position to be taken advantage of women, right? Taken advantage of by women. And if you use these things purposefully to take advantage of women, you're going to get me too, right? Whatever you trade for sex will eventually be used against you. So if it's financial resources, if you're married to a woman and you take away the financial resources because she's not having sex with you, they will call that financial abuse. Even if that's the understanding of your arrangement, because sex work is illegal. If you take away the emotion, they'll call that neglect, right? Call that stonewalling, right? They'll call it a variety of things. She'll call you narcissistic and abusive, right? If you try to put boundaries in place to prevent her from playing with fire, she's going to feel like you're controlling, right? If you play with her emotions, she's going to call you manipulative and abusive, right? If you put her feet to the fire and you give her ultimatums, then they're going to call you coercive. Even if the understanding of the relationship is that that's what she's bringing to the table. Understand that if you're dealing with a woman, what you need to be bringing to the table first and foremost is good dick and guidance. Those are the two primary things. Now, after that woman's on your program, she's invested in you, and you think that it makes better sense for you to be in a situation where she stays home and watches the children when they're young. She's been indoctrinated into your program. She's traded in her social programming for your program. She accepts your beliefs and she adopts those beliefs for herself. Then she is in a position where she can raise and teach something valuable to your children. There's nothing wrong with being a provider for a woman, but don't lead with that, because that'll put a woman in a masculine submissive position. Don't appeal to a woman's pragmatism. Don't do it. I know it sounds like, it's very tempting to do that, especially if you have money. It's very tempting to do that, but don't do it. If you're going to be transactional with women, understand that sex work is illegal, but keep that to a confined space. Don't make that a long-term arrangement, because the way divorces are set up these days, if a woman doesn't desire you sexually and doesn't respect you as a man, if she sees a way of getting those resources without having you, she will do it. And that's where a lot of the divorces come from, right? So this is just Brody, just breaking down that a woman's value isn't based on her number of sexual partners. This is a woman's value. It's Brody, I'm out.